Glasses. We're live.
Are we already? Gosh, it seems
We
like we
are.
were just doing this yesterday.
It does seem like we're just doing that. Because we do this every day.
Every day. That's right. We're always telling
That's right.
something to somber, trying to set them right, Jeff. That's what we
right.
do.
But we're preaching today, girl. I mean, we're gonna
What are
get
we
nasty.
preaching about today?
We're talking about ABM and
Oh my
everybody
God,
loves throwing around
I got a
those fun
headache
little,
already just thinking
right?
about ABM.
Those fun little acronyms: ABM, ABX, AB bullshit. You know.
Yeah. So I want to kind of start ABM with you and I in the early part of our careers were both in sales. So when ABM came out, I had on my sales hat, right? Not my marketing hat. And I thought, finally, there's going to be a way for marketers to work with salespeople in a way that salespeople actually care about. But then it didn't really turn into that. I think what happened to marketers, they got influenced by technology versus how sales thinks about going after major accounts. And then it just became a bunch of things to do versus really taking this opportunity to make a huge difference in the life of salespeople and in that relationship between sales and marketing. So that promise, in a lot of ways, I don't think ever was fulfilled.
I feel like we're flipping roles today. You're being the reasonable one. I'm the angry one, like what we were doing a couple weeks ago with mops. Because I think this is so fucked up. When this first came out, I'm like, well, how is this different than TAM? Because you and I were raised on target account, selling, and right, like back in the early 90s. And once again, marketers went out, bought some piece of software. No disrespect to our friends at 6 Sense or Demandbase, because they're awesome. But you buy their platform, check. Okay, so now we're doing ABM, we're doing ABX. No, you are not.
I think I just said that, Jeff, but I just said it in a nicer way.
That's what I'm saying. We're flipping
I don't
roles,
quite
right?
have your aggravation level today. So what's happened recently that's kind of like set you on fire on this topic?
Because I think you talk to clients like, oh yeah, we have a full-on ABX strategy. We're doing it, and you look under the hood, they're not. They don't even. Doing? Well, number one, first of all, they haven't even sat down with sales to agree on what the accounts are. It was just marketing going ahead and kind of setting up their own account list. Or
I need to write a book. I need to write a book called Bless Your Heart Marketing, and it needs to be about their lack of a relationship with sales. So I completely, how crazy that they're not talking to sales about this, but we still see this every day.
Did you see? Or it happens the other way. Sales comes like they're coming down to the mountaintop with like the tablets, and they tell marketing, we're going after these accounts. No data, they're just the accounts that they want to go after, and they start assigning the accounts to the reps. And they're like, okay, so you have a $2 million quota. Here's your 10 accounts. You have a $2 million quota. Like, you're passing out appetizers at a party or something. But but there's no data behind it.
You know what? And we've both been in those sales meetings. There's no rhyme or reason except for it's a big ass company. That's
exactly. It's got a cool logo. It's got a cool logo
in their target area, and zero data.
So then you go out and you buy 6 Sense, or you get on board, or you get Demandbase, or maybe if you're on the smaller side, you got Factors or Warmly. There's no shortage of technology out there that does this shit. And then, but that's it. You're like, okay, so where's the personalized content for the account? Where's the account strategy? Where are the specific engagement metrics? How have you mapped out the buying committee? You haven't done any of that. None of that. But somehow you're doing ABX or ABM or whatever you want to call it.
And I think that's the curse of the marketer. Not only are they attracted to the next bright and shiny technology toy, but too often they let a piece of technology tell them how they should go about doing their business, right? Versus saying, here's what we need to happen to be effective with ABM. And now this piece of technology will help me do that.
Exactly. And then technology is not a strategy, though. But yeah,
it is not a strategy
over and over again. And I'll tell you what, this is what I don't know if it was any one thing, But now, as hesitant of marketers and companies have been to adopt AI, they're making the same mistakes all over again. They're going out and they're buying a bunch of AI tools, like this is the .com era all over again. And now we have an AI strategy. Now we're doing ABX with AI. Look, just because the company added AI after its name .ai and you bought it, doesn't mean that somehow you're now doing AI, and you're definitely not doing ABX.
Right.
Could you please stop the insanity?
Right.
Why, after all these years, are marketers still doing the same mistakes over and over?
I don't know. Further, when I take a look at ABM and I take a look at AI, there is that focus on the technology, getting it and using it somehow. But there is little thought given to the big changes that come about as a result of using that technology and taking that direction. For example, you said it, just because you buy a piece of ABM technology and start using it, where are your long-term planning with the sales organization? How are you incorporating them into that conversation? How does this change the role of marketing and what they can deliver to the sales organization? How does this change the process in sales? So getting to that next level of change, that's just not something that people think about. And it's true with ABM, and it's hella true when it comes to AI.
And
I was
same
just
thing
explaining
with
to
budgeting too, Deb. I mean, well, so many companies, it's always an 80-20 rule, right? You might have 20% of your clients bring in 80% of your revenue. So even if you do have an ABX strategy, I would be shocked if a big portion of their budget was going to supporting and growing that 20%. They're probably spending 2% or 1%, and then they're spending all this on getting all these net new logos. That's insanity. Like, wouldn't you be better off developing a much richer go-to-market strategy and marketing campaign around your top 20 accounts? They're going to bring 80% of the revenue versus wasting all your money on all this demand gen that's not going to bring in the quality that you want.
You know what it is, Jeff? It's fear and lack of credibility. It's fear of missing out. I was just talking to an organization the other day, and they go back and forth between sales wants everything that breathes, and then when they get them, they're like, well, this is crap. So then marketing pulls it back, and then they want more. And then it's also credibility, right? So what is the credibility of marketing to say, hey, if we pull back and do it this way and take a more nuanced focus and have a strategy that comes along with that, we can do X% greater conversion pipeline contribution. But that's the conversation that doesn't happen, because it's just do a bunch of stuff.
And look, even if you do have all the fun tools and you got your nice little toy box, these tools only work in a digital world. What a lot of marketers don't realize, sales for that matter too, is in today's buying reality, more than 50% of the activity is not happening digitally. It's happening in the discussions in all the various rooms, because procurement and IT and HR and finance are not busy going to your website and downloading your white paper and your infographics, but they are absolutely influencing whether or not you guys get bought. So, how are you gathering that intelligence?
Yeah, you just made me think. I like to read a bunch of science fiction. I'm reading a great science fiction book right now, and they have these little robots that just kind of jump out of your sleeve and they go off and do things. And just imagine if we could send those digitally, and then they could go off into the rooms and listen to everybody talking about what they're doing. Of course, we don't want to do that because that is illegal. However, you're right. All of those discussions are happening. And if marketing is not working with sales and the people who are involved in those discussions to bring all of that into the mix so that they can better use these tools that really helps that conversion, what's the point?
I can count on one hand the number of marketers that can actually demonstrate the impact of their ABM programs. How much?
And you only have 5 fingers on one hand, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure. Okay.
I could probably get past 1 finger, maybe 2. But yeah, I mean, but the reality, they can't measure it because they're not doing it other than a checkbox to say that they're doing it.
Jeff, when you and I started in business 1,000 years ago, I don't think either one of us thought we'd be sitting here in 2025, drowning in enabling technology. and marketers still having that issue with getting to revenue. And part of the reason, as we've just talked about, is their approach to technology. It's their approach to not working with sales in a beneficial, strategic way. It's not getting sales into that conversation. And ABM is just a prime example of that. I think it's a shame that you can only count on one hand the number of organizations that you know of that has been successful with ABM. Now, perhaps a lot of organizations would say, Jeff, we are very successful with ABM. Do you think they have a different definition of success than what you're thinking about?
Yes. And I think like what we talked about last week about perception gaps and reality, I think they want to believe that they're being successful with it. But I think asking a few questions like, what was your original account, your revenue goal per account? What percentage of the accounts met that number? How much money did you spend per account? What was the ROI against that effort? How can
they not be having that conversation? How is that possible? How is that possible?
Because they're so busy. Well, we have to get 17 more campaigns out the door, ABX being one of them. Oh, we've got these 2 trade shows coming up this week. We have to do the webinar campaign. We have to send out our newsletter. Marketing spends 90% of its time talking about stuff they have to do, stuff they have to get done, stuff they haven't gotten done yet.
Yeah. And that's always the conversation. Always.
So little time about the strategy, the ROI, the efforts, how to better align with sales, what's happening in their markets. Here's a much better way to use AI. Like, help me analyze what's going on in my customer's world. What do they care about? What's changing for them, and how can I help them? How do we best align?
How much more interesting that would be. I think that people listening to this LinkedIn Live may disagree with the number of organizations that are truly successful with ABM, but I think you bring up an excellent point. I always thought that ABM was the area where marketing and sales for the first time ever had a real reason to work together to create revenue in a brand new way, a way that had not been thought about before, because you've got the digital footprint, you've got the personal footprint, all those things come together. And again, like I said, Jeff, we didn't think we'd be sitting here in 2025 and still be having these kinds of conversations. So if you were to give advice to our ABM listeners, once they have admitted, oh, Jeff, I'm sorry, but we are very successful with it, or yeah, maybe Jeff's right, we're not as successful as we think, what advice would you give them?
I would start off by just forget the words for a second. Tell me how you're going to market next year, and what of the revenue that you're going to get, how much of that is coming from a small group of accounts? How important is it? If it's important, then we can spend time going on to the next step. If it's not, why are we even talking about it? Maybe this is not even a strategy that you need to pursue. I mean, and again, of course, ABX, when it's done well, you're absolutely right. It should unite sales and marketing. It should have measurable returns for a company. Mm-hmm. But not every company needs an ABX strategy. So I guess I would start there.
But if they do need an ABX strategy.
If they do need one, then, okay, using data, what accounts have been the best growers and most profitable for you over the last 5 years? Start there.
And maybe do a lookalike strategy, similar companies.
Strategy. It's easy to get caught up in ICP conversations and buying committees and talking about all these various attributes. And then it's quite another to see what you're actually selling and who you're selling it to. Because every time we do this exercise, we always find opportunities to tighten up or improve the ICP, whether there's companies that they've actually been selling to, but they're not even paying attention to because they're so focused on an ICP, or just as importantly, they're not selling to the ICP that they think that it should be their target, and they're wasting a lot of resources, time, money, effort, people going after a market that's not giving a good ROI. So I think that's really where the conversation has to start, Deb, just really looking at the data and the go-to-market strategy. And then from there, even then, don't be running out and buying the shiny toy on the hill. Like, you can get started with your existing marketing automation and some basic intent tracking. You know, you don't need to be spending a couple $100,000 on an ABX platform until, do you have your content strategy nailed down? Do you have your retargeting advertising strategy nailed down? Do you have your KPIs nailed down? Are you in alignment with sales? If you can't answer yes to all these questions, you have no business going out and spending more money on ABX software.
We as marketers love technology, and it's just as simple as saying, okay, let's take a look at ABM next year. And the reason we're going to take a look at that, we can influence X amount of pipeline, X amount of revenue with much effort, working in relationship with sales, using these processes, using the technology. And of all channels that we work with, this channel can have a very high ROI for us. And that's where we want to be there. You know, it's kind of like I see marketers who start talking about revenue impact and contribution. It's just kind of like very slippery for them, right? Rather than putting it as the thing and keeping and not and going there, they just start slipping around, and then it totally Jeff, that's what you want to do. If you keep the number in front, hold it sacred, then everything works from here. But oh yeah, we kind of have a number, or 5 of us kind of sort of own a number. It's just a recipe for disaster. You're just going to wind up doing a lot of things. I also see marketing organizations still today. Let's say I've got a $10 million budget, 30 million, 50 million, whatever, right? And there's X number of hours for me to do things. And I have this level of responsibility up here, yet marketing frequently has no power to determine what they do. The company determines what they do, and those interests are not always aligned. And we've talked about it many times. Marketers have zero ability to say no. We have to say yes, and we have to get it done. So rather than stepping back and taking a look at marketing as a business unit that has to get a particular number, a particular ROI, and then how we respond to things, decision criteria for what comes first, what comes second, none of those things were in place because marketing is still the dumping ground for organizations. And
I mean, the easiest thing to measure is the revenue per single account.
Yeah.
Okay, the account did $100,000 last year. Our goal is whatever, $1 million this year. How much did you spend on marketing to go get that other 900,000? It's a very simple equation.
and which channels have the highest return for you?
Yeah. And then that's how you start to measure. And it's really more about ROI versus specific attribution, although I still find myself having this conversation every single day. You know, we need to be doing multi-touch attribution. We're doing first touch. Should we do last touch? I'm like, oh my God. Okay, well, do you need to understand which channels are working and where you need to spend your money? Yes. But stop focusing on the way that you prove marketing's impact on revenue to the business is actually not through attribution in and of itself. It's through ROI. Mm-hmm. It's through partnering with sales and whether or not you get the revenue number or not. That's how you measure it.
That's right. That's exactly right. I totally agree with that. So we've got a couple of minutes left. I want you said you can count on one hand the number of companies that are successful with it. Think about one of those companies on your hand. What are they doing so well?
I think literally everything that we just talked about, Deb. I mean, they are using data to drive their approach. They use data to define which accounts they should be going after, what the rule should be. They are aligned with sales about how they're going to measure success. They're aligned with sales about who's doing what and when to go after the ad activity. And then they are allocating specific parts of their budget and their time to go after these accounts, and they're measuring that accordingly.
And there's a number. There's a number.
Yeah, there's an actual number. And then now they're using various different platforms. Mm-hmm. I mean, because look, if you're doing all those other things, you're going to hit a home run with 6sense or Demandbase. I mean, they're amazing platforms.
They're amazing.
You have to be doing all the other stuff. But if you buy the platform first and you don't have the content, the metrics, the budget, the people, the resources, then it's acting as a glorified intent engine. It's showing you who's showing up and what they're looking at, but you have no mechanisms in place to follow through to be able to execute on the ABX platform. So then now you're spending a lot of money for shelfware.
So one touch on the impact of AI on ABM. A few thoughts on that.
Well, I mean, it's incredible already with what AI can do in terms of data-driven insights. You can do even more finite segmentation for your ABX strategy. You can get better data, both hard data as well as intent data. It can help you with really developing a much more comprehensive go-to-market strategy. It can help you with your content development. So AI can help in many, many ways to really refine, optimize your ABX approach.
To be talking on a later episode. So very happy to have this discussion around ABM. Sometimes I feel like we cover the same things, but I think the whole of the show is how aren't you reporting on revenue? I mean, that is the ultimate thing of what we talk about. There's drowning technology that enables you to do that, and ABM is one of the you can just get it right. So with that,
I think that you said it best. So until next week, we're going to be keeping it live and keeping it raw. So thanks.
See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.